OHIO podcast 2025 Iowa Hawkeyes season preview. Chris, there is about three things in life you can count on. Well, four actually: death, taxes, a scandal in Ann Arbor, and Kirk Ferentz is going to coach Iowa every year.
Yeah. I mean, let's face it. He's been there since Lincoln left Iowa, right?
I think Lincoln was from Illinois, wasn't he?
Doesn't matter.
Okay.
He was.
Yeah,
You're right.
Kirk Ferentz has been there a long, long time.
Well, the ongoing joke is that he was a coach Rutgers versus Princeton. So
Yeah, it's the ongoing joke, and that joke it just keeps writing itself every single year. But Kirk Ferentz keeps winning, Chris. He keeps winning, and as Joel of the 12 Saturdays podcast and I discussed, which you will hear that interview here shortly, last night actually, when we pre-recorded it. Kirk Ferentz is about to break the all-time winning record in the Big Ten for head coaches. He's about to pass Woody Hayes for number one. Now, there's a caveat to that. There hasn't been too many coaches in the history of the Big Ten who has lost as much as Kirk Ferentz has as well. It's just called longevity, folks.
yeah, you can count on it, Eric. He's 8-4.
There was 9-3 Earl. There's 4 Kirk.
Yep.
Well, let's dive into a little bit of how that 8-4 went last year for them. It was actually a little bit better than that, you could say. But we're gonna look at that, and then we'll dissect, I guess, a little bit of um, where they were, and then where they're heading. How about that?
Sounds good.
So last year, Iowa in 2024, ending 7-5, and on the regular season. And right, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Yeah, no, eight.
They were 8
They
four in
were
the regular
eight
season.
and four on the regular season. And then I added 2 more wins to their total there, Chris, for 2024 because it wouldn't be the OHIO podcast if I didn't have some kind of error on the graphic every single week. I think I've got it right. No, you don't. They were 8-4 in the regular season. They end up being 8-5 overall after losing to Missouri in the bowl game. Ask Ohio State fans about losing to the Tigers in a bowl game. And 6-3 in the Big Ten. That included wins over Illinois State, Troy, Minnesota, Washington, Northwestern, Wisconsin, Maryland, and Nebraska. That included losses to Iowa State in the in-state rivalry, Ohio State, Michigan State, UCLA. Well, those are a couple teams you didn't expect them to lose to. And then Missouri in the bowl game. Vegas said their over and under was 7. We both said take the over. We were correct in our assumption. Kirk Ferentz has 204 wins to 124 losses, like we mentioned. Iowa's all-time record now is 702 wins, 580 losses, 39 ties. Their bowl record now sits at 20-18-1. They have 13 conference championships, and they play in Hennick Stadium, just under 70,000 people, doing the wave, Chris, in between the first and second quarter.
Yeah, and you talk about Kinnick Stadium, man. That's one of the toughest places to play in the Big Ten. It really is. So they've got a major home field advantage here. This is a team, Eric, that I feel like really underachieved a bit. Should have beat UCLA, lost that one by 3. Should have beat Iowa State, lost that one by 1. Don't know how the hell they lost to Sparty by 12. I really don't, because they were a much better team than the Spartans were last year. So yeah, for me, this is a team that, and honestly, even in the bowl game, they only lost by a field goal. This is a team that was much better than what their record was. So, I
Were
don't know
they
what
better
it's
than
going to,
Indiana?
I don't think so.
No. They're they had that Indiana like schedule set up for them.
Yeah, they had a very soft schedule. I mean, you take Ohio State off this schedule, and I mean Iowa State always a tough in-state rivalry. You take those two games off this schedule. This was by may have been by far the softest schedule in the Big Ten.
Yeah. So I could see where you feel like they underachieved. Quarterback play was an issue last year.
It was.
They've addressed that in the offseason. We're going to talk about that with Joel. And we'll see where this team is at in 2025. It feels like Iowa fans feel like this year it's setting up for a little bit better year this year. We'll see what Chris and I think after the fact. But here's the interview with Joel from 12 Saturdays podcast. If you're an Iowa fan, you're going to love this. If you're an Ohio State fan, you love this. This guy is a wealth of knowledge and a really good friend of mine. So I think you're all going to enjoy this interview. And joining us now for our Iowa preview is Joel from the 12 Saturdays podcast. My good friend Joel, it's good to talk to you once again, my friend. How's the summer treating you?
We're a baseball family, and so we have been inundated with baseball. 14-year-old son who played on a high school team and a travel ball team, and Iowa still plays high school baseball. I know you know that, having some family in this state. So it's been a busy summer. We just wrapped that up on Monday, and so now we're full on to football season, right?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, a lot of people don't might not know in Iowa. I'm assuming some of the other states around Iowa they actually play.
We're
What
the we're the last state of the
are you?
states to play summer baseball.
There you go. Yeah.
Alaska, I guess, might, but they don't really count. They're more Russia than they are United States. So
There you go. But yeah, they played the baseball season, high school baseball season over the summer. So very interesting. Can't say that I would hate that. Thinking back in the times, all playing cold, 30-degree, snowy weather baseball when I was in high school.
as a player, it's awesome. It really is. Like, I loved it. We were like, it was kind of like that senior year summer, especially, was like, I've graduated high school. It's my last thing that I'm doing with my boys all summer long. You wrap up high school baseball. We missed the state tournament by one game.
Mm,
And then, 2 weeks later, some of us went off to play college football and moved off to our next part of life. So I still have it. 25 years later, I still have great memories of that last
yeah,
summer playing high school baseball.
yeah. We must be the same age, because I was 25.
2000.
Yeah, we must be the same age. I graduated the smoke-free class of 2000. Thanks, Nancy Reagan.
Yep. We dared to do it differently.
That's right. Oh man, you know who still dares to do it differently? That's one Kirk Ferentz and the Iowa Hawkeyes, baby. They are still doing it their way, man. Let's start there, brother. Let's go back to 2024. Kind of give me a quick little rundown synopsis from a fan's perspective on the season that was for Iowa, and then how that transitioned into what was the off season this past summer, this past spring and summer.
2024 was the cleansing of the offensive embarrassment that was the previous 3 years. And I know I've come on here before and I said I'm one of the few, Brian Ferentz supporters. And I still support Brian Ferentz. He's the tight ends coach now at Fresno State out in California. It was a wrong time, wrong fit at this juncture of Iowa football. I think there were many other times it would have worked just fine, but with NIL, everything getting crazy, having no one in the quarterback room and having him not be a quarterback's coach, it just was a calamity. And 2024 was where we got to cleanse that palate. We finally got to purge Cade McNamara from the program. Tremendously failed NIL acquisition. Not because there's anything wrong with Cade. I think Cade's a decent guy. He's a good person. It was a solid cultural fit at Iowa, but he just was never healthy. It was a lemon, and thankfully with the new transfer rules it's basically like a college football lemon law. You can get out of a bad investment pretty quickly, and so Cade's gone. I believe he applied for like a seventh year of eligibility. I think he's at Chattanooga, someplace like that. So I don't really know where he is, and that's okay. But Brendan Sullivan stepped in, played nice football for the Hawks before he got hurt. He's actually now moved on. He's entrenched in a starting quarterback battle at Tulane. So in steps uh, Mark Gronowski, the South Dakota State stalwart, Chicago area kid. Gronowski won the equivalent to the FCS Heisman 2 years ago. South Dakota State, a powerhouse. That coaching staff actually that he played for is now at Washington State. So it was kind of a boon that he didn't go to Pullman, that he came to Iowa City. And I think Gronowski is a really good fit for the Tim Lester offense. And I think it has a lot of the Iowa faithful very encouraged with how this season could shape out.
Yeah, I would, I went back and actually, I've watched a couple of his games later, like when the postseason games that they have there on ESPN, when the snow's flying on a Saturday and no one else is playing, and the boys and the FCS are going at it, man. And if I recall, he's a pretty athletic guy. Two
Yes.
way, like he can tuck it and run, and so something that's dynamic there that could be used in the Iowa run attack would be his legs.
And he's familiar. He played in Kinnick Stadium as the starting quarterback for the Jackrabbits a few years ago. That was a 10-3 final score, I believe, the game was, and South Dakota State went on to win the national championship that year. That was their only loss, was to the Hawkeyes, and so. He's played in Kinnick Stadium. I think he wanted to be on the other side of the crowd noise. I think that was a big selling point for him there, and he's going to do a really good job. He did have an off-season surgery, but it wasn't a rebuild or anything. It was just clearing up some scar tissue and some things to get him ready to throw. He had a great showing at the Manning Passing Academy. He's a highly regarded guy, and he was here all spring. So even though he didn't play, he was in the program. He was there. He's been a part of the offseason program, and I think that's a huge step forward for the Hawkeyes.
So before we dive into the rest of the roster around him, I want to talk a little bit about Kirk Ferentz, where he's at this stage. I know it's kind of a question that I last couple years I've thrown at you, and how much longer at this point. I don't know that I should be questioning how much longer. He might coach forever.
Well,
the, the guy is just timeless, it feels like.
he's key for in, outside of some catastrophe. He's going to pass Bo Schembechler as the all-time leading coach wins in Big Ten history, or is it Woody Hayes? I can't remember who. I'm totally drawing a blank.
Yeah, you better be careful. You're on Ohio State podcast here.
No.
It's got to be Woody, man. I'm pretty sure it's got
Who?
to be Woody. All time leading wins in Big Ten football. Right? Let's look that up. I'm pretty sure it's Woody, but I am. Well, no, it's given uh, Michigan's total wins, but that might change too.
Uh, well, yeah, I'm a coach. I mean, I guess if you guess Woody Hayes, you have a puncher's chance to be
Yeah,
right.
205. Woody Hayes. Kirk Ferentz is at 204.
Yep.
Bo Schembechler's at 199, so he already passed Bo. Uh, and
This
well,
is
Bo was at 194. Amos Alonzo Stagg of
Uni-
Chicago,
University of
199.
Chicago. University of
Yeah.
Chicago, one of the original members of the Big Ten.
Yep.
Still, I believe to be considered a Big Ten university academically. I think that they are grandfathered in, but I'm sure there's someone listening to this who can either correct me or affirm my statement. But no, I apologize for having some brain fog there on the Woody Hayes. So 205 wins. Is that all? Is that just Big Ten or is that
I think that's all time,
all
isn't
time?
it?
Yeah. So he in theory should tie Woody Hayes against Albany on August 30th. Which is a night game, which is weird that we're getting a night game August 30th against a FCS opponent. But interestingly enough, Mark Gronowski's last start as an FCS quarterback was against Albany in the playoffs. So
Hmm.
he's coming off last playing them. So it's an easy scout, I guess, for him. And so then that would mean that he'd be playing at Ames against Iowa State to become the all-time winningest coach in Big Ten uh, history. So, or and then UMass, which Kirk has some history with that region as a coach. Um, so it's and then they go to Rutgers. So he's gonna pass Woody Hayes at some point this season. He'll be 70 on August 1st. And if you talk to the guy, he talks tomorrow. We're recording it on day 2 of Big Ten Media Days. He's the leading guy tomorrow on day 3 from press conferences. He's still spry. He's still young. He's still competitive as hell. I actually saw him at a youth baseball tournament a couple weeks ago. Actually talked to him for a little bit, and he's ready to go. And he's got a younger staff now with him. LeVar Woods, one of his former players, special teams coordinator. They had to replace Liddell Betts, the running backs coach, who's moved on to the New York Giants. Hired a guy from the Packers to be the new running backs coach. Um, and so it's a little bit of a new look, but he's kind of letting Tim Lester and company bring in the guys they want to work with, whether it's analysts or coaches. So Kirk's it's Kirk 4.0 is what I call it, where he's kind of now letting his assistants really dictate a lot of the culture and a lot of the not the culture, a lot of the personnel decisions, and he's still captaining the culture. But he's got a blank check. It's his job as long as he wants it, and for at least now, I think he wants to break that record. And so I don't think it's his last year, but it also wouldn't shock me if at the end of this season, depending on how it went, he said, "I'm done."
How long do you want him to coach?
Me personally,
Yeah.
see, my son's a freshman in high school. No, I'm kidding. My son's not playing Division I football. Uh, I think it'd be nice if he could finish this contract out. So 4 more years.
So it'd be 74.
So Saban retired when he was 73.
70. I was going to say, that's about the same as Saban did.
So Belichick is 75, 72. So those are three guys who talk a lot, and they're still pretty close. And Belichick's now back in college at North Carolina. Let's see. Belichick's fiance is the same age as the seniors at Iowa this year. So, I could
Maybe that's the secret for Kirk to keep
no,
going.
no. His wife is one of the best human beings on the planet. He'll coach when Mary says he'll retire when Mary says it's time for you to retire.
Yeah.
Just like I think Nick retired when Terry said it was time for him to retire.
Do you think he's looking for one more big season?
Yeah, and I think he sees it could be this year.
Okay. Well, we're going to dive into all of that. Let's see how you guys stack up as far as your roster, and then we're going to look at the schedule pretty close and come up with a floor and ceiling here. So let's start with the offense first, since you mentioned uh, uh, Gronowski already, the
Everyone
senior.
wants to call him Gronkowski.
I
Everyone,
know. I almost did it. I stopped because no, it's not Gronk. That's for sure.
it's Gronowski.
Let's start with the backs, man. Who we got in the backfield, then we'll go to wide receiver, tight end next.
So you've got Terrell Washington and Kamari Moulton and Jazion, or we call him Jazz Patterson. They're three backs who actually carried a lot last year, even though Iowa obviously had an NFL running back in Johnson last year. That's a lot of yardage and production to replace, but all three of those guys actually did a good job as kind of combining to be the dynamic number 2 running back that Iowa had. Patterson has gained, I think, 17 pounds in the offseason, and he runs hard. And he's a kid out of South Florida. He's a junior. Moulton and Washington are both sophomores. Washington, they kind of flirted with him being a slot receiver at one point, and now he's back full time at the running back position. But then there is another kid named Brevin Dahl. He's a redshirt freshman, and he lit the state of Iowa track meet on fire as a high school's track athlete. He is legit home run speed. He broke his arm, and so he missed a lot of time last year, and he broke his arm in high school too. So he's had some injuries, but they're not to the wheels. They're just to the chassis. So let's hope that they can get it all healed up, because he's a guy who could play a big factor in the return game too. And then there's another Williams, who's a redshirt freshman as well, and he is a kid that's come into the program, and I think they're hoping to not have to play the freshmen as much, with as deep as they are in the junior and sophomore class. And also, they've got a walk-on running back coming on out of the Marion, Cedar Rapids area. Jackson, whose father, Fred Jackson, played for the Buffalo Bills. So we've got the next generation of NFL talent guys walking on at Iowa. So it's a great situation to have. They've got some good depth when you throw the walk-ons in there as well.
Yeah, and then obviously we'd be remiss if we didn't talk about the big uglies up front, man. Isn't that the Iowa, along with tight end, kind of the Iowa bread and butter here?
So the offensive line uh, could be the one of the top five offensive lines of the Kirk Ferentz era if they stay healthy. One of the biggest bugaboos in Iowa's last 3 or 4 years have been the injuries at this position because of a lack of depth. There were about three classes that underperformed. A couple guys never made it to campus. A couple guys had career-ending injuries early on in their career. And so there's a group of seniors, and Logan Jones, Bo Stevens, Jennings Dunker, Mike Mislinski, who have had to play a little bit more than they thought they were going to as young players. Now they're seniors, some of them fifth year, sixth year seniors. Also, Jack Dotzler, he's a junior offensive lineman who I look to play a lot. There's Cade Pieper. That's a name I want you to keep your eyes on. He's a sophomore. He is a back-to-back Solon, Iowa Beef Days hay bale toss champion, and he joins Tyler Linderbaum and Tristan Wirfs as the last or the only other two who have gone back to back to win the hay bale toss. So that is a good indicator of athletic ability at the offensive line position for the Hawkeyes, and the coaches are very high on Pieper. George Barnett, the Iowa offensive line coach, feels really good about this group. They're young and their depth is young, but they've had to play a little bit. There's another youngster. He's a sophomore, Cannon Leonard, who's 6'9", 309 pounds, who's in the depth chart at tackle, and it was a dynamic track athlete as a thrower, also, and coming out of Illinois, and he's a really good athlete. So they've kind of retooled and refueled the tanks at the offensive line position. And Jennings Dunker, my sources, and I've told you before, I've got some guys who are NFL scouts in my Rolodex. He's got a first round grade from some guys. He could be the third or fourth tackle taken in the NFL draft come next April.
Did we get wide receivers?
We
Did we
haven't
hit?
talked receivers yet.
Yeah,
No.
okay. I was gonna say. I think we passed up on them. Yeah. Well, let's talk about those guys. I mean, it's not usually a position at Iowa that gets mentioned, but maybe this year it could be a little bit different.
Yeah, you've got Seth Anderson and Gill returning from the team last year, who were really productive receivers, and we're starting to see that the Tim Lester offense caters to good receivers a lot better than the Brian Ferentz offense did. And Caden Weechen is back for a fifth-year senior. He plays some slot receiver, but he was the best return man in the Big Ten last year. So he looks to still continue that role, and hopefully they'll get him a little bit more involved in the offense. And then Reese Vanderzee, who played a lot as a true freshman last year. He's a 6'5" wide receiver from a small town in northwest Iowa. Um, and he just came in and produced right away, and he continues. He had an injury towards the end of the year, and then you have Howard and Bowie, who are young receivers as sophomores who played a lot as freshmen. They're very high on KJ Parker, who's a redshirt freshman. I believe he's out of Florida, and what I was told is he's not the kind of athlete that Iowa has typically had in the wide receiver room. Being he's a little bit taller, but he's really fast and can get the job done. So they're deep. There's a lot of sophomore depth there and senior depth. So I think we'll see a few more, 4 wide receiver sets for Iowa, and not just on third and long. I think we might see them to work a little bit more to spread the defenses out to run the ball as well.
All right, let's turn it over to the defensive side of the ball
We
now,
got to talk
Joel.
tight ends. We got to talk tight
Oh, do
ends.
we have to?
Tight
I
ends in the first
can't.
progress.
Well, you guys had one of my favorite tight ends from state of Ohio. Ohio State didn't offer him, and I've sour on. I'm still sour over Ryan Day about that one,
Is he
man.
playing for the Steelers now? Uh,
Probably he's
yeah.
probably going to be he's probably going to be a 12-year NFL vet. I mean, when your dad is an Ohio State legend,
Your dad's the
works
commentator for the radio.
works for the Buckeyes in the at the radio station, man. How do you not offer his son? Oh, it's still infuriating to me.
And unfortunately, though, Luke did underperform a little bit as
He
a
got banged up though,
yeah.
didn't he? Did he get hurt?
Yeah, I was
Of
about
course, we're
I was
talking about Luke Lachey, everybody, in case you're wondering.
against Western Michigan 2 years ago. Had a displacement ankle fracture, which and I'm the son of a physical therapist and a sports medicine professional. That means that you have a broken ankle where it also dislocates. So that's one of the ones where it looks like your ankle is flopping around at the end of your leg. That's unfortunately what happened to Luke at the about the second quarter of the Western Michigan game 2 years ago, and it just kind of it sidelined him for the rest of the season. And then I don't think he was ever quite back to 100% during the season last year. I think the bowl game he was close, and I know he was ready for the combine, so that's why he performed very well, and that's why he's playing. He's gonna be playing on Sundays. Complete tight end, can block, can do all that. And Iowa has another one in that, in Addison Estrenga, who originally was committed to the University of Iowa as a pitcher out of the state of Wisconsin. It was one of the top baseball recruits. And then 2 weeks after he committed to Iowa to play baseball, he came to the Iowa football camp and garnered a football offer, and informed the Iowa baseball coaches that he wouldn't be coming to play baseball. He was going to switch to football. And we're glad he did. He played as a true freshman. Now he's a senior. He's a really tough, physical kid with great hands. And then Zach Ortworth, who's kind of a George Kittle prototype, like a little bit lighter in the rear end, but can get up the seam really quick and has great hands, makes great catches in traffic. And then Michael Burt, the redshirt freshman, uh, is a fantastic player. And then the true freshman tight ends in Meyer and Woods, Mason Woods, kid that I saw play live 3 years because he played in my local district. He is the son of Iowa special teams coordinator LeVar Woods. He was a four-star recruit, 6'4", 230-pound tight end. Played wide receiver in high school. And then Meyer was actually the number one ranked player in the state of Iowa, and was as a top 15 tight end coming out of high school. So they've reloaded and retooled at that position in the true freshman class as well. So we'll see how Iowa does with that.
Luke Lachey is playing for the Houston Texans,
Oh, okay.
where Cade Stover's tight end, and of course C.J. Stroud is the quarterback. So some
So
serious Buckeye ties there.
yeah, you might finally get some passes thrown from a Buckeye.
Finally, yes, that we can see what that could have looked like. I guess you could say.
Just wasn't fast enough. Just wasn't fast enough, Eric. He only
Yeah,
ran a 4.6 instead of a
yeah.
4.5.
Well,
Because that matters when there's 800 people running at your head.
all right. Let's start with the defensive line, man. You guys got a ton of seniors there.
Yep, Herkut's back. Ethan Herkut, just a little engine that could. Never gives up on a play and can turn the corner. Reminds me a little bit of, he was number 6 for you guys several years ago. Played for the Bengals in the contract. Hendrickson?
Oh yeah, 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 yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
I think he's a very similar player to him. Uh,
Sam.
Sam Hendrick, yeah. And again, my wife's like, you remember people's numbers, but you don't remember what I asked you to do yesterday. Uh, and Max Llewellyn, another defensive end, who Max really came on. Mad Max is what they call him. He's got the spin move down. He's just ripped the soul out of Nebraska last year with the strip sack with 22 seconds to go in the game last year for Iowa to walk off again with another field goal to win the game. He's a really good player. Zach Tweet, another guy who plays linebacker, but he may find himself on the line at some point, and there's Pittman as well, who's a really strong defensive tackle. But probably the biggest player for Iowa to get back, because he was draft eligible and a lot of folks thought he might go, is Aaron Graves in the middle. And Aaron Graves is as good of a defensive tackle as you're going to find. He can rush the passer. He's really good against the run. Um, he's just a big old small town Iowa kid who was a 4-star recruit but didn't go on any visits except to Iowa, so he probably could have elevated to a 5-star if he had played the recruiting game. But I think he still has a flip phone. Like he's like one of those guys, like a total uh, unicorn in today's times with kids. And then in the incoming freshman class that they're very high on is a 5-star, 4-star, depending on the recruiting service. You look at Yosei Epineza, AJ's younger brother, who turned down offers from Alabama, Clemson, Ohio State, Michigan to stay with the family tradition and play for the Hawkeyes.
Linebacker, brother. Let's go to the middle of the defense.
That's the biggest. That is the biggest question mark, because
Mm.
obviously you graduate Jay Higgins and Nick Jackson, who were two of the best linebackers in the country, not just in Iowa recent history. Um, but there's some talent there. There's Jackson Rexroth playing outside linebacker. Um, Montgomery, Jaden Montgomery, whose dad coaches for the Packers. Um, there's going to be, so this is one of those positions where you just kind of have to trust Seth Wallace, the associate head coach, and he's kind of the Phil Parker's second in command on the defense. He's also the linebackers coach. Uh, you know how it's kind of like you just trust that Iowa's going to have a good tight end step up and play, even if you've never heard of him. That's
Hmm.
kind of how it is with linebacker. I'm really intrigued by the redshirt freshman class at that position. I don't know how much they're going to play, but there's Cam Buffington, who is from the same town as Iowa basketball legend Jess Settles, Winfield Mount Union. Played 8-man football, but came into college 6'2", 230 pounds as a linebacker. Track guy, played running back, played linebacker. He's a big, physical, small town kid who can get the job done. Like, reminds me of kind of the old school, like, Nebraska always had like some kid from the Sand Hills that was always a stud that no one had ever heard of. Well, that's kind of Cam Buffington. And then you have Derek Weiskopf, who's a redshirt freshman from Williamsburg, Iowa, same town, same high school as Weechin, the wide receiver return man. Weiskopf, two-time Iowa high school high jump champion, and he's playing linebacker for the Hawkeyes. Great athlete, track guy, but he's about 230, 240, and so he this is maybe too high of praise, but when you look at his high school accolades and the things he did as an athlete, as a high school athlete, Chad Greenway is a name that people seem to think could work as far as body type and skill set.
Mm. All right. Secondary. Let's start with the corners first, man.
Yeah, it's Lee and Hall. Those are going to be the guys who
Yep.
get the first look, and they're good. If Phil puts you out there, you're good. It seems like such a cop out, but the uh, the body of work is there, right? Everyone who knows Iowa knows that the corners aren't going to suck, and they're gonna be fundamental. They're gonna tackle. They're gonna find the football, and they're gonna intercept it. And that's what they think they have in Hall and Lee. They did get a big transfer though from the University of South Dakota, an FCS All-American in Barrows. He's a fifth-year senior, so he's going to add a lot of depth. He could be that third corner that comes on maybe in a nickel situation. Um, but it always seems that somebody rolls an ankle or tweaks a hammy or something at some point in the season. So having veteran depth, that was big for Barrows to come over.
And at safety, you got one of those names, man. One of those guys that slip through our fingertips when it comes to recruiting. And Xavier Nwankpa, he
Yep.
was someone who we were really hot to trot. We were after, and was one of the biggest recruits ever, I think, to stay at home in Iowa, if I
Yeah,
recall correctly.
he's the highest rated recruit ever to stay, ever to sign with Kirk Ferentz. I think he was the number 7 overall player in the country, and the number 1 defensive back, depending on what recruiting service you looked at. And he's a senior. I do believe X is going to move from the free safety position to the strong safety position this year. I think he's going to replace where Castro was last year, and he's going to move down where he can play a little bit more closer to the ball and use his physicality at the line of scrimmage. And I think that's not a bad thing because Cohen Entringer is healthy, and I think he'll move in really nicely to that free safety spot. And also, don't sleep on Zach Lutmer. He's a sophomore, another kid from Northwest Iowa, small town, same town as LeVar Woods, same town as Kyle Vandenbosch, who played for the Huskers many, many years ago. Um, it's just one of those football factories, and he played a lot last year, and I think he'll play a lot this year as well.
Now, normally we're done with the.
No, we got to talk about the kicker and the punter.
I said, but normally we are. But here's the thing: when you talk Iowa, we have to talk kicking. It's just you have to do it.
There's three phases to the game. Wisconsin used to say they play 5 quarters because their band's so good. Well, Iowa, we play all three phases. Reese Dakin is, a sophomore punter from Australia who showed us last year that he's on track to be just as valuable as gosh, I can't even. He's so good. I've forgotten his predecessor. What's his name? I've 7 concussions are showing through. Punter for the Bears. What is his name?
I know nothing about the NFL, so that's the. If you're asking me for someone who's playing in the NFL right now,
Tory Taylor. What am I thinking here? Yeah, Tory Taylor. Uh, your fans listening, how is this guy an Iowa expert if he can't remember the most prolific punter of the last 20 years? Tory Taylor was outstanding. Reese Dakin is showing that he's probably just as good. And he's a sophomore, so we got 2 more years of him. It's also where the only school where I think the punter makes almost as much in NIL as a top offensive player. Um, the And then Drew Stevens is back as the kicker, senior, and Drew has a giant leg. He has an absolute monstrous leg. Kid who is from the Carolinas, and he walked on, and now he's a scholarship guy, and he's gonna do great. So the kicking game is solid. It's a veteran. I think that's the key. Is yet when you have maybe a young defense like Iowa has, having a veteran kicking game is important because your punter can put your defense in advantageous positions, and if the defense, struggles to control the field position game, if your offense finds himself in trouble, you don't have to get as far to get 3 points because Iowa can kick it from deep.
there you guys have it. That's the roster, man. That's who Kirk Ferentz is going to be going into battle with this year. Joel breaking it down like no one else can. He's mentioning the depth. He's mentioned where these kids played at high school. One kid was a track star with breaking high school records in the high jump. He's bringing out stuff that no one else does. That's why the 12 Saturdays podcast is legit. Everybody, let's take a look at this schedule in 2025. You mentioned it, August 30th. You're at a night game at home against Albany to tie Woody Hayes. September 6th on the road in Ames, Iowa. In-state rival Cyclones to break the record. I believe Iowa State got you last year, if I recall correctly.
Yep, they sure did.
So a little bit of a makeup game there for Iowa. I foresee Iowa. If correct me if I'm wrong. Doesn't it feel like a lot of times the road team almost wins this one
It,
sometimes?
it had been that way, and then Iowa, I think, has won 3 straight going into last year. So I
Okay.
don't think Matt Campbell had ever beaten Iowa going into that. But and I could be wrong. It's amazing how much my brain has shut down with all this parenting crap I have to do, Eric. I used to be a categorical encyclopedia for all of that rivalry, but I'm getting old. My 43-year-old brain doesn't. I need to take better notes. I'm learning for this. But yeah, so then UMass they host UMass,
Yeah.
and then it's
Then we get right it.
yeah,
We're right it. Now that first one,
Friday night game at
that's a
Rutgers.
Friday Night Lights at Rutgers, dude. I mean, I'll say this, man. The Rutgers crowd on the Friday night games, dude, they get up for that stuff, man.
And I have immense amount of respect for Greg Schiano. He's a great coach, and Rutgers is a better school when he's there. Um, Chris Ash, another Iowan, former head coach at Rutgers, former assistant at Ohio State. Just he had a rough go at Rutgers, and Greg Schiano though is doing the right things to bring it back. Um, yeah, I mean Friday Night Lights at Rutgers. We'll see how that goes, but we played on a Friday night in Maryland a few years ago, and there was a great crowd in the first two quarters, but I think it was 51-7 was the final
Woo!
score or something like that. It was pretty bleak come third and fourth quarter at Maryland, and hopefully that's the case up at Rutgers. And then
Sep-
then
yeah, here we go. This
then
one's the one we need to talk about right here. Come on, bring it to me, Joel. This feels like an Iowa Kirk Ferentz. I'm going to take you to school game.
yeah, I don't know that I don't know what Indiana's gonna be like this year because they had such a unique season last year. And I hate to be the guy who's like, yeah, but you didn't play anybody because everyone that was always
No,
the
you're
knock.
don't. You can be that guy. They beat one team with a winning regular season record. They beat Michigan at home 20-15. That's it.
Right. But as an Iowa fan, I hate it when people use that argument when we played in the West and everyone said the West always sucked. Um, which record wise, yes, but those games were a little bit more competitive than who Indiana played last year. So I think Iowa wins that game by 2 touchdowns. I think the first chance for a loss on Iowa's schedule is Penn State.
What's your thoughts on Penn State this year? Everybody seems to love them.
Yeah, they'll be good. I mean, but again, okay, so I think October 12th is the last day that Luke Fickell is the head coach at the University of Wisconsin.
Ooh, calling your shot right here. I like it.
I think Iowa beats them in a fashion at Camp Randall that he is removed of his position October 12th or 13th. Penn State, I think that's going to be a night game in Kinnick on October 18th. It just has to be, right? Penn State, Iowa, that's the sneaky, big rivalry in the Big Ten that those two teams really don't like each other. Kirk always wants to beat his home state school. That one could be a really fun one. I think Iowa's. Ugh, the fan in me says Iowa wins that game. I feel like that could be one that they lose. And then they get to rebound against PJ Fleck, who sucks, and Iowa is going to win that game and keep Floyd. Then they get a bye, and then I'm really excited for this game. November 8th, Oregon comes to Kinnick Stadium. And that game, it's my brother's birthday, so I'm pretty sure he and I are going to go to the game together like we did when we were kids. Uh, it should be a blast. I think Iowa fans have been waiting to show Oregon that we're another small stadium that can get really loud without all the Nike money around it. Um, and I think that should be really fun. And I think Oregon wins that game, but I think it's a sneaky going to be closer than what people
Well,
think.
you remember what happened in Oregon against Wisconsin in Madison last year, don't you?
No, I don't.
They barely won.
No.
If they beat Wisconsin by a score, and it was an ugly game that Wisconsin was able to keep close, and they really struggled in that atmosphere. If they struggled in Madison in that atmosphere against that team, they're going to struggle against Iowa and Kinnick.
Because I don't think this Iowa offense is going to look like Iowa offenses of past where it's like slugfest. I think Iowa's offense is going to have some real explosive ability. And I'm just curious to see how that Oregon defense is going to manage with Iowa's defense. Or Oregon's offense is going to manage with Iowa's defense. Sometimes Iowa struggles with those spread teams, but sometimes those spread teams aren't used to getting hit in the mouth as much as they will by Iowa's defense, especially in the secondary. And then I hate going to the West Coast. It never goes well for Iowa. I think that Kirk Ferentz has only won 2 games west of the Rockies in his entire career as the head coach at Iowa. We went out and laid an egg at UCLA last year, so that USC game concerns me. But you got to play them right, and I think Iowa is going to be just as good as USC when it comes to just matchups. I mean, obviously they'll have higher level talent, but I think Iowa's skill will actually overtake some of the talent disparity in the trenches. I'm talking about on the offensive and defensive line. And so if you can win the war at the line of scrimmage, you can win any football game. I think that game stays close. Iowa's got a huge motivation to beat Michigan State. Should not have beaten us last year. It was a huge blemish on Iowa's season. And then, it's at Nebraska, so there's a win.
Ooh, doggies. What's your thoughts on Dylan Raiola, second year?
He's a good player. He's a really good player. I just maybe I'm just old school. Just play the damn game. Don't show up to media day in a red pinstripe tuxedo or whatever the hell he was wearing today. It's like, just quit trying to be Patrick Mahomes and just show up and be your own person and play your own game. Like, there is just such a difference in how I want my quarterback to be. I want my quarterback to be more like a Baker Mayfield, where he's just showing up and he's a team guy, and he'll be the first to throw in the beer money instead of saying, hey, let's all get a limo and get some champagne or whatever. He just wants to drink the Busch Light. Like, I think that's the big difference between Iowa and Nebraska. Nebraska fans are Busch Light fans, and that's one of the things that makes them so great, but they want their team to be like champagne dreams. Iowa just wants their guys who show up like the Jack Campbells of the world, the George Kittles of the world, the Dallas Clarks of the world, who just show up from nowhere. They do a good job. They build you a heck of a deck, and it's going to last forever. So I think that's the difference between the two programs, and that's why I think Iowa has been so successful, especially in that rivalry, because they're consistent and they win all three phases of the game. Special teams have been the big difference, and turnovers and takeaways have been the big difference in that series. And I think Iowa will continue that Black Friday blackout of the Nebraska Cornhuskers.
All right, give me your worst case scenario basement floor on the season and your best case scenario attic ceiling on the year.
So I think the realistic floor is 4 losses, so 8-4 for the record. And when I look at the schedule, if you tell me just to look at the schedule, pragmatically, the ceiling is a loss against Penn State and a loss against Oregon. Sadly, those are 2 home losses, so that kind of will leave a bad taste in a lot of Iowa faithful's mouth. But to me, those are the 2 most high probability wise. Those are the 2 highest probability for losses. But I mean, honestly, if I'm picking the schedule and submitting a wager ticket at a sports book, I'm taking obviously the over. I think Iowa is a 7.5.
Yeah,
Over.
7.5. Yep.
I'm taking the over, and I think I would, if I could bet a record, I would bet 11-1.
Last year the over under was 7, and I took the over and won some money off of Iowa last year. So I think
Yeah,
we could. I think we go back to that well again. To be honest with you.
yeah. The over is definitely the bet. I mean, because look, Albany's a win, UMass is a win, Rutgers is a win. I think Indiana, Wisconsin are a win. So there's 1, 2, 3, 4 right there. Iowa State's a toss up. I'll just because of what it is. Minnesota, I think Iowa will be a 3 to 6 point favorite in that game. I think they'll be an 8 point underdog against Penn State. I think they'll be a 7.5 point underdog against Oregon. I think the home field will give Iowa a little bit uh, in the spread on those 2 games. I think we'll be road dogs at USC, but I think they'll win that game. Um, and then they'll be a 10.5 point favorite against Michigan State, and probably a 3.5 point favorite on the road against Nebraska. So that's kind of how I feel it. If we're putting it all into odds making per things, that's what I think it'll be.
There you go. I love it. All right, my man. So I'm going with the over. I won them. I won money on them last year. I'm going to do the same again this year. Um,
And I have a gambling rule: I never bet on Iowa because I can't be emotionally and financially invested in the same thing.
yeah.
So that's just one of my hard fast. That's my credo on the gambling side, and so that's where I go with that. So that's where, if you're getting gambling advice from me, I try to get it pretty even keeled, because like I said, I don't actually ever bet on the Hawkeyes, because I can't let a loss also hit my bank account because it's already depleted my soul. I don't need it to deplete my actual finances.
Oh, Joel, this has been great, man. You're one of my favorite people to talk to. You know your stuff, dude, and it's a joy.
And I think so.
And
If people want to, we're going to start recording our episodes here, and we actually have an Ohio native lined up. I'm not sure what week we've got him lined up for, but Micah Hyde will be joining our podcast
oh,
in the first
nice.
episode this year. Gonna get Dallas Clark back. I think we're gonna get Pat Angerer, who is the play-by-play voice, radio voice of the Hawkeyes now, and he's a former Indianapolis Colt. So we've had a lot of guys cycle through our podcast who are close to the program. I actually got contact for Bob Sanders, and I don't want to get my hopes up because not only is he my favorite player in the recent Iowa history, but he's a ghost. Like he doesn't do interviews, he doesn't go on podcasts, but apparently some friends of friends have told us we're a good group of guys to go on. So maybe we'll actually get the mythical hitman Bob Sanders on our podcast this year.
So if you're an Iowa fan, make sure you head on over to 12 Saturdays, check that out, and subscribe. You guys on YouTube or just doing the audio still?
I think we're going to try to do YouTube this year.
Good.
We know that's what we got to do, so I actually invested in some tech, and so we're going to get that. And I think we're also going to get so we're for August. Cat's out of the bag. We're going to try to do in the previews because we can only talk about the schedule so much. I think we're going to get people like Scott Docterman from the Athletic to come on with us, and we're going to try to create the best Iowa team of the 80s, the 90s, the 2010s, and the 2020s, and try to do like a top four teams in each decade. So we're gonna have guests on to help us suss that out, and that should be a fun conversation because I think we're gonna get like Dallas Clark to come on and talk about the 90s, and then we'll get Marv Cook, legendary Iowa tight end, to come on and talk about like the 2000s. So we'll get guys who played in different decades, not representing their own decade because they're just going to pick their own team, right? So we're going to try to get some guys on to discuss that. We think that'll be a fun series leading into the season.
That will be. So make sure you guys go check that out. Buckeye fans do the same, man. If you're wanting some good content and learning more about some of the other teams in the Big Ten. All right, Joel. If all else fails, guys, go over to thecollegehuddle.com. Scroll over the Big Ten down to Iowa. There you'll find all the links for 12 Saturdays, the Iowa podcast, our sister podcast in the College Huddle. Joel, thank you so much, my man. I appreciate you
And it,
doing this for us.
and it sounds like with the new basketball coach Ben McCollum, we might be a basketball school soon. So that'll be kind of fun too.
What is basketball?
Yeah, I know exactly. You guys don't know a good thing when you have it. You had Thad Matta and you just let him go. Now he employs 2/3 of the McCaffrey family at Butler now. So
Oh, we haven't. Yeah, that Mata had that team rolling for a while, and then he had a lot of health issues, and that set him back, and program got set back, and now we're stuck right now in an endless cycle
then you
of
got your,
suck.
your women's coach almost made it home. That was close. The
He
basketball
got to
coach.
the neighbor's yard.
He got to the neighbor's yard
Yeah,
because we are a mecca for women's basketball now in Iowa City.
well,
You know, Addie Deal, 5-star, top 5 player out of California. She's a freshman for the Hawkeyes this year. Look out! It's not just a Caitlin Clark thing anymore.
ooh, we shall see. We shall see. Oh, that's a whole nother podcast, Joel, talking about Caitlin Clark, man. That's a whole nother
I
show,
sat
brother.
next to her brother at church this weekend. It was in Des Moines for a baseball tournament. I sat next to one of her brothers at church. So we're good Catholics over here.
Go check out the 12 Saturdays, everybody. Joel, thank you so much for hopping on, man. Enjoy the season. And we want to thank Joel from the 12 Saturdays podcast for joining us. Chris, as you heard, man, the guy is he's pretty optimistic on the season. Um, I think he has a reason to be. I think Iowa has addressed some of those offensive concerns um, from the holdover, I guess you could say, from Kirk Ferentz
Hmm.
refusing to relinquish offensive play call duties from his son for all those years. And it's going to take him some years, some time to kind of rebound from that. Defensively, Iowa's always going to be solid. But I have said on multiple occasions to people, Chris, that if you can you jump out on Iowa by a couple scores, the game is usually over.
Yeah, and I don't know that I don't know if there's anything this year that changes my mind about that. I mean, I think obviously Gronkowski is a May or Gronowiski or however you want to pronounce
Gronkowski.
it. Gronkowski, there we go. Major upgrade at quarterback. Um, a lot of guys coming back. I mean, if you look at this roster, the quarterback is the only guy who was not in the system last year.
Yeah.
I mean, this is one of the teams that has the fewest transfers and fewest incoming freshmen rostered right now. So they've got experience. And you talk about Kirk Ferentz. He's been around this game a long time. He, he's a guy who knows how to win. Sometimes can't get out of his own way. I think he's a little sometimes stuck in the old ways too much. But hopefully, that gets fixed for Iowa this year. I feel like this is a team that could do. I don't. I don't know if they're a playoff team, but I think they're a team that will improve over last year.
Well, let's take a look at that. Let's dive into the schedule one more time. This time with Chris and I. Of course, Vegas has them at 7.5 wins. Let's start at the top of the schedule. A night game to kick off the season on August 30th against FCS team Albany. That's a win.
Yep.
September 6th, they go on the road up to Ames from Iowa City to Ames, Iowa to take on in state rival Iowa State. Cyclones clipped them last year after Iowa had beat them several years in a row, like Joel mentioned. I feel like it's advantage Iowa in this one, even though it's on the road. I'm going to give the nod to Iowa, but Iowa State is definitely a team that can beat them. I'll give the
Yep.
nod to Iowa.
I did as well.
Uh, September 13th, UMass to finish off the non-con schedule. That's a win.
Hmm.
September 19th on the road, a Friday night in Piscataway, New Jersey. Rutgers fans will be up for this one. Like Joe mentioned, they went to Maryland on a Friday night last year and destroyed Maryland. This is a Rutgers team, though, that seems to play very well on Friday nights at home. They will have that one circled. That is a big, almost must win for them in Rutgers if they're going to get to 6-6. This is a very interesting game here, Chris, for Iowa. I have Iowa winning this game. What do you have?
I have them winning as well, Eric. I think it's going to be a toughly contested battle, um, but I think that Iowa pulls it out in the end.
Okay. Then big one. They come back home on September 27th to take on Indiana. Can't believe I'm saying this. I'm actually rooting for Iowa to win this game.
I have Iowa winning this game, honestly.
Yeah, I
Um,
do. I do as well.
I don't think Indiana is quite as good as they were last year.
All right, here we go. Bye week number one. Then they're at Wisconsin. Madison has been a tough place to play for a lot of people. Joel was not concerned at all. In fact, Chris, like you heard, he called it after this loss. Fickle gets fired. He predicts Iowa will embarrass Wisconsin and they will fire Fickle.
Eric, I have Iowa winning this as well. I mean, if you look at that schedule, um, you've got 4 or 3 weeks in a row there, or almost in a row. You got Alabama, then you got like Maryland for Wisconsin, but then you got Michigan and Iowa back to back, going into Ohio State the following week, going into Oregon the week after that, playing Washington the week after that. This is a Wisconsin team that's going to be reeling. I would not be surprised at all if he's not right, and that may be the end of Fickle right at that point. And they may pull the plug before Ohio State.
Rajiv from the Bucky report, like he mentioned, this is the one game in that tough 4 game stretch, like you mentioned, that Wisconsin has. This is that game they have to win if they're going to get to 6-6. So, again, another team looking at Iowa, just like Rutgers, maybe just like Indiana, that they have to win this game if they're going to reach their goals on the season. So that's 3 opponents in a row that I think Iowa is going to get their very best shot. Rutgers, Indiana, Wisconsin. Then, and by the way, we are predicting Iowa wins 3 of those games.
Mhm.
On October 18th, I have them losing at home to Penn State. Chris, is this your upset special you were
This is
talking
my
about?
upset special. I think Penn State goes in, and I said earlier, Kinnick is such a difficult place to play. James Franklin, I feel, will James Franklin himself here, and I think this is where Ferentz gets one. Because if you think about this, at this point, if we're going by our predictions, I have both. Uh, I'm sorry, I've got Penn State already coming in with one loss, reeling from Oregon. I've got an Iowa team that is undefeated at this point. This is the game I think for Penn State's season at this point, and I just feel like this is where Franklin's the thing.
Wouldn't that be something? Penn State comes out of Iowa City with their second loss in the season, and Iowa's still undefeated. October 25th, they host Minnesota. Possible letdown game, Chris. If you think they're going to upset Penn State, Minnesota comes in and they kind of overlook the Gophers here, but it's going to be a classic Big Ten West showdown, and I got Iowa winning this one as well.
I do as well. At this point, I've got Iowa at what 2, 4, 6, 8-0 on the season, Eric, and then the wheels come off.
I've got them at 7-1, and then they come into November, starting off with a bye, and then they host Oregon. I have them losing to the Ducks.
I do as well.
They travel to Los Angeles to the Coliseum to take on the Trojans at USC. You heard it from Joel. He doesn't think they're going to win this game. He says they don't travel well to the West Coast. I have them losing to USC.
I do as well.
November 22nd, after a couple losses in a row, or 3 of the last 4, if you're listening to me, they have a revenge game against Sparty at home, November 22nd. They lost on the road in East Lansing last year somehow. I think they beat Sparty this time.
I agree.
At Nebraska, November 28th, Iowa has owned the Cornhuskers. Owned them. Chris, we're both calling for a loss. I think
Yeah,
Nebraska finally gets over the hump against Iowa at home to finish off this year.
I think this is the year that Matt Rule breaks through with Nebraska. I've got Nebraska finishing the season very well. Actually, I have them finishing with the same record as Iowa after defeating Iowa.
So, if you're keeping track at home, they said 7.5. Eric's got them just over at 8 wins. Chris, you have them comfortably a game and a half over the experts at 9 wins on the season. So that's what Chris and I think of the Hawkeyes in 2025. How do you feel about that, Chris?
I mean, I'm not gonna lie, there is concern surrounding the Penn State game, but I'm pretty confident. I just feel like Kinnick is more than James Franklin can handle. Who knows how many fans he's going to scream at while he's there? Uh, I think that this is an improved Iowa team. I think this is a falsely confident Penn State team, given the difficulty of their schedule. Um, yeah, I think this is the perfect recipe for Iowa to get that win. So I feel pretty good about the 9-3.
If if it is on Fox at Big Noon, I think it's advantage Penn State. If this game is under the lights at Kinnick, it's on NBC or something.
And,
Watch
and
it.
if you look with Penn State, who's Ohio State got that day? That's because I'm trying to see what other games in the Big Ten would kind of offset that one. I mean, that's what week
Well, there's
2, 4,
there's
7.
Ohio State. No, Ohio State's a bye week that week. So
You
Oregon's at
got Michigan,
Rutgers.
Michigan State.
You do have Michigan, Michigan State. That could depending on what Michigan State's
Wisconsin at
done.
Oregon, and Wisconsin played Oregon well last year.
They did, but it's at Oregon, so it won't be a noon game, that's for sure. Um,
Uh,
that's really it, man. This might be a big nooner.
Indiana, UCLA, maybe just depending on how they're going at the time. Oh, is that Illinois? No, Illinois on bye week. I thought it was Illinois Washington.
No, that's a bye week. That's the week after they host us. The only other question is who does Notre Dame play that week?
Is that UCLA week or USC week?
No, I don't think so. So
No, US. Yes, that's US Notre Dame week.
is it really?
That's USC Notre Dame. That is probably your 8 o'clock game right there
7:30 kick. It's already marked down.
on the Peacock. I'm betting.
October 18th, 7:30. That's going to be your NBC game. So this game will either be big noon kickoff or it'll be 3:30 kick on CBS.
Yeah, well, I'll tell you, the later the better for Hawkeyes fans.
Yeah, 100%. You want that Iowa crowd to be frothy.
You want
If
the
you're
Iowa that we ran into down at the stadium a few years ago. That's what you want.
100%. 100%.
They were a fun bunch.
Make sure you smash that like button, everybody. Make sure you share the show. Subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. Ring the bell, get notified every time we go live or we drop new content. And be sure to let us know what you think about what we think down in the comments section below, especially if you're an Iowa fan. We'd love to hear from you. Hear what you think of our takes and what you thought of Joel. Make sure you go follow his channel over there at 12 Saturdays. All his content over there. They're going to be doing YouTube for the first time this year after being audio only. Those guys deserve your patronage. One of the better Iowa podcasts. I've watched and listened to quite a few of them. There's some pretty bad ones out there. These guys aren't one of them. They're pretty good. So go check that out. And they got a lineup of great hosts in the month of August too, guys. Chris, we are now 12 teams down officially.
6 to go.
6 teams left. They are Northwestern, Nebraska, Oregon, Penn State, team up north, and Ohio State. That's who's left. And next up, everybody, the Northwestern Wildcats
One of
are
these things
next
is
up.
not like the other. One
Yeah,
of
one
these
of those
things
is not like the
doesn't
5 other
belong.
ones, huh? But we're getting there, Chris. 6 to go, man, which means 3 weeks left of this, and then you can smell it in the air at that point. It's time for some football.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm ready, Eric. I am so ready. I'm tired of talking about it. I'm ready to get to see it.
There you go, man. You all know what to do from this point on. Be kind to one another. I have someone's OH and Carmen Ohio with all your heart. Till next time, Chris OH.
I
Go Bucks.